Hello and welcome everyone. This is Blackadder at Blackadder's Place and I welcome you to today's stream. We are going to be having some further Mythic Clan League. So you have a bit of a double header, as currently this is not only this match going on, but also from the same stage there is the Uncrepables vs Gladiadores del Mythology that is streamed by Player at Twitch TV/PlayerAOT. No, and we're gonna be having a look at the Deities of Death in here, together with, well, AOM Italia. Well, always provided some interesting games and interesting strats and everything. Last round they didn't have the opportunity too much. We have also streamed the recorded game on Wednesday. Played only one game against Legionarios Phoenix. No, and well, today hopefully that's gonna be a full best of 5 therefore. I'm gonna be playing here in the quarterfinals, the second round of the losers bracket. No, and well, that it is gonna be therefore somewhat of a classic first map that we are gonna be playing upon. So for the gods, Narcotic, as you can see, he's gonna be playing with the Oranos in here. We are gonna be heading into a pocket that will be there for one of the Egyptians in the games. That's gonna be Apple performing with Isis. I'm already seeing her inspiring the Aztec in there. I think it actually was AOM Italia with that special Aztec play on Medit. So we'll see about that. Then of course into the right flank that will be Apoi. Otherwise would be of course casting maybe some of the matches and some of the games, but he is having a business and duty on playing for Deities of Death today. It's gonna be played with Zeus. So classic good civilizations overall in here. Oh well, Underworld Passage is gonna be there for available. That's the important piece and part. And for the opposition, we are gonna be there for playing interestingly with Artorias with the Aztec. It's gonna be there for this Quetzalcoatl. He's gonna be performing with here to the right. I think it's maybe Quetzalcoatl. Wasn't he playing something different last time on the Medit here this time around? Kind of thinking that maybe would have been something else, but whatever. Neurology is gonna be playing with Hades into the middle, classic, and the last one on the left side, that's gonna be the Automaton. It's gonna be playing with Isis this time around, not gonna be his classic and standard Gaia, which also would have been pretty great, but well, neither side is actually choosing it for the Medit initiative, which is a bit interesting, because really people do prefer her quite a lot lately. No, and well, you're gonna be there for waiting for how quick the advances are, or maybe even slow, are going to be for the classical age. I definitely prefer some quicker ones, but maybe it could be some kind of fun plan into even some kind of faster heroic. It's very interesting how actually there was a decent success with that lightning bolt, actually faster heroic from Japanese. But like legitimately everybody just stopped playing that. I'm entirely certain why, because it was actually really powerful. So I'll be expecting some kind of combination of two players playing normal classic, some kind of faster advances, 430 maybe less. Oh, but like 430 is gonna be decent. And well, the third one, the Japanese going for the fast heroic, actually could be having some strength in it. And some kind of good power. As you can see right now, it's gonna be Kuidrum here as for example the relic. Yeah, of course I forgot to put it in the Logis mod. Black Lotus is gonna be next, provided the game of course is going to be long enough. Rhea's Crown, that's gonna be useful. Hermesvic Sandals also not too terrible. Armor of Achilles, I guess. Atlatl of Hecatl, same situation. I have the Hades in there, especially for him. It's gonna be nice to have in the Hecatl. Nine-tailed Fox. Belt of Argus is of course gonna be useful, as it always is with the extra vision. Then we do have Eye of Horus, and we're gonna be right now reaching the end with Woven Horseshoes, pretty nice. It's gonna be certainly nice and useful, and Task of Dangang, or some extra free piggies potentially. But unless you can say now there's gonna be already quite some juicy scouting going on around the Zeus in here, whereas all the way on the left side it's gonna be only piggies, right? Yeah, piggies. Together with Kataskopos, unfortunately right now for Teal, oh well, unfortunately also for it, being taken back, and you can see the advances. First is gonna be the Aztec. It was somewhat to be expected, or one of the first ones. You can say now 420, and it will be about 450, which is still quite a bit faster than some of the others. Like really, the advances aren't super prompt yet again. So, okay, so I just didn't see it properly. Yeah, it was a bit of a glint of light over there. So actually the Aztec is gonna be on the other end of the spectrum rather than anything else. Okay, so the opposite is gonna be there for 2. No, and the very last one is gonna be the Isis with, wow, 530 plus advance actually. Tomaton going greedy in here. I mean, like it's something that could have been and was done in the original game. So I wonder if it's gonna be there for resulting as well into some faster heroic from the Eggy possibly. Because obviously this is gonna be about now quite a nice edge here for Narcotic. Be taking some early lead here. And possible advantage. Okay, we're gonna be doubling on the left side therefore. Alright. Understood. Whereas it looks like first Pentacounter is also coming forward currently for Nerdology. So yeah, it's gonna be apparently Hammer Ships versus Hammer Ships at this point. No problem there. At least for the time being, there is. Whereas all the way to the right wing, we're gonna be now still fighting also on the water. Pentacounters as well being the most common one. No, and as you can see, plenty of siege weapons here from Bahamas, from Artorios. So therefore, we could be luring them out a bit and therefore charging in without some kind of extra support in fire from the docks, possibly. Or, well, as you can see, even right now, the warrior piece is waiting to help here, possibly if he can. Then, there's some kind of opportunity. It could actually work out after all. Yeah, okay, so it seems like we're not entirely gonna be heading anywhere here too much, especially since Neurology is gonna be helping here, but that might be and should be therefore resulting into some kind of problem on the left side. Red and yellow, no against purple, no, purple is basically having absolutely nothing in there, so that's not gonna be too much of a fun fight. However, here it looks like that teal and blue are not doing actually fairly well. It's gonna be even forcing currently Apple to be helping out in here. Apparently Shockwave on the water on the left side has been cast, which is currently kind of hard to see what it resulted into. Unless maybe can I have a quick look in there. Some good opportunity for a few right partner boats coming up. Unfortunately, can say now Apple is gonna be having an opportunity for the snakies that are gonna be counted by the enemies. So plenty of mythical wildlife around here, with even some carnivora helping out from the Oranos, who has of course advanced through what else than an Oceanus. Okay then, looks like it right now we're gonna be therefore heading a bit closer, this time yet again to Artorias' base. Deities of that right now having a bit of a comeback on the right battlefield. Not entirely understandably, because they're gonna be having practically 2 versus 2, with even a third player right now, Narcotic for Deities of that, trying to close in. You can say now at least not cleaning up, but like at least forcing some idling from the food economy. So we're just gonna quick check in case 7:30 is kinda early still, but you never know what kind of strat they might be having. But no, a Heroic Cage, no, actually second TC currently coming up. Okay, is gonna be getting extra gold. Not gonna be really having any kind of deeper thought beyond that, at least for the time being. But looks like it's gonna be some kind of also landing attempted on the land with the warrior priest from Artorias, and it's kind of what I exactly remember what he was doing. I'm really thinking it was them. I think it was them like a few weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3. And it's not entirely the first time. And he was having actually quite a bit of a good success in there. He was having like, I don't know, 15 plus, maybe, no, plus not sure, but high amount of warrior priests, and it was pretty annoying for the opponents to deal with. No, that's the first second TC right now built by Apple. Already gonna be the same idea currently by Nerdology, but he's gonna be of course inherently slightly slower. Interesting to be having right now the first defense on the left side, as apparently Narcotic wanted to be already switching into the land like part of the fight, but not going to be having as much of a good luck with that just yet. Is the Aztec right now up to? Not much, just having the upgraded Calpuli for the wood, right? Yes, lumber outpost it is going to be. And all over here to the south, let's maybe right now recheck the water where this is gonna be going, because it feels like this is gonna be, no, definitely not right now one for Eom Italia, for ITCs, but looks maybe slightly better for them overall if they're gonna be focusing it still. So it almost looks like they can say right now teal is not, has some kind of armada for blue, who's gonna be trying to join as well. Okay, looks like it maybe gonna be having an actual fight in here. Goes battle to the right. Overall 109 population limit for ITCs, 78 for DoDs. Villages are gonna be better by about 8 for DoDs, but of course that's gonna be still a consideration for the fishing boats, which currently are going to be maybe somewhat similar. Maybe slightly better for the bottom team, considering for example purple, how he has been, fortunately, hammered at the very start of the classical age, but currently it looks like that most people are gonna be going for second TC. The only one who isn't is currently going to be the Aztec. Let's go for right now focus on him apparently. How he's gonna be firing on the fight, not entirely too superbly. Just needs to be for getting a bit of help from Neurology in here as well for some kind of proper battle, but currently this is gonna be one hell of to probably micro with restoration for both. Sure, I guess. Second, of course, gonna be always the more useful one in general. As you can see right now. Well, that's going to be the first heroic age coming from Apple. Already managed to get the resources, which is fairly nice because, as you can see, Automaton definitely hasn't. Like, absolutely not. And they both do have a second TC2. That's gonna be, of course, the difference of the fishing boats missing from a bit earlier. So we can say now it's basically going to be like a huge difference in the resources together. It's gonna be very interesting in the graph down the line. It's gonna be getting the information therefore from and gleaning from. And for blue, just gonna be clicking his resources. It's gonna be getting a bit closer. By the way, the agave probably can be cast only on the land, right? Big enough, and if you could be getting it also on water, but at the same time, I'll certainly if on water it will be as useful. It definitely is a pretty cool healing god power on land, that's for sure. Okay, yellow, and he's gonna be having a bottom monument. Whereas for purple, well, also the same. Having similar, at least elegant approach. And look at that, Miguel from Apple is gonna be coming all the way right side. No, but of course, before the villages are gonna be even in. Of course, he's not any kind of Chronos for time shifting. Yeah, that's gonna be taking some time, unfortunately. Not entirely ready for that yet. However, we are gonna be already at 11.5 minutes, and we are still heavily fighting water. So I think we're gonna be at this point well past the time where it actually is going to be important to win the water. I mean, like, sure, there's some kind of opportunity to drop the docks into the middle island. Finally, therefore, get some kind of advantage. And just kind of like improvement of the efficiency as well. That would be also pretty nice. As far as the fishing goes, but looks like right about now the bottom team is gonna be successfully pushing forward. However, they're probably gonna be getting stopped because if you look at the Egyptian army that is waiting for them here. Decent amount of siege boats against mostly arrow ships, and we really do not have any kind of hammer ships in here. Okay, just like 2 here from yellow, and that's pretty much it. There we are, some further healing. How are they actually? Okay. Leva, I think, gonna be making a bit of a mistake in here. I was kind of like contemplating how are they. I was actually healing them a bit ago, but nonetheless, doesn't seem like it's gonna be anything all that important at this stage. So we are gonna be at this point looking into quite a bit of a force and power overwhelming here, and especially right now also to the right side there's quite some increase in activity by Apple. The serious one against Artorias, who's getting a second TC, but he's not gonna be having too much fun anymore, and pretty soon. However, there's also in the teal neurology. In the middle, not entirely doing too badly as far as blocking the economy from Apple. Just gonna go in for that telegraphically since we do have some kind of fights to be concluded in here. Don't necessarily want to be leaving with decent delay, I guess, by the Axolotl. It almost looks like it's gonna. Communication here, plus. Maybe communicating about something a bit else. This seems like. I was going to say he's gonna be trying to help, but he's having plenty of siege weapons there, or siege boats, so he's not entirely the right one to go against such an army of Pentaconters from Nerdology. So good job for him. There is just, by the way, about 20 more for Deities of Death. Currently, the fishing boats are maybe gonna be slightly better for the Italians, but I'm not entirely thinking by too much. It's gonna be pretty similar in general and overall. Third DC even, for example, getting made. That's gonna be right now coming for the left flank, both purple and red. So you're gonna be at this point. No, the arrow ships will be helpful, but unfortunately we have quite some overwhelming forces in here from Nerdology. It's not entirely going to be all that easy. Reyes, all the way to the bottom. It looks like that Automaton is gonna be getting himself a solid victory with so many siege boats. Shouldn't be having too much of a hard time pulling down the docks. But it seems like it's gonna be heading into more of a double on the left wing, considering the formation of the villages right now on the wood line in there. However, this seems like maybe it's gonna be working. Maybe kind of like a good old spam of Pentaconters is gonna be worth something. Though, of course, it's quite a bit different than in the original game, because in the Oric, well, they will be made in 9 seconds. Here, I have practically like equalize all of them, and it's gonna be taking the classic 17 for all. Well then, so with the turtle in, that obviously is a signal that we do have right now a mythical age already on our hands. Hey, look at the skill even from Apoy in here. But well, much more importantly, we need to be right now looking to the left top side, sorry, where we do have the push by Apple. Meteors coming forward, probably into the middle of the base in here. Yeah, of course. So that's gonna be a goodbye TC. For the Aztec, he is not gonna be... No! It's not like completely far away from a mythical age. So they're gonna be having potentially the back TC in here. And this was what? It's just gonna be some kind of random camel. No, that is a unit he's gonna be able to right about now somewhat fight against, evidently. The rest, hard to say really, because currently this is gonna be quite a powerful push by Deities of Death, no? And the ITCs did not entirely seem to be ready for this. And since it's of course a Zeus in here from Apoy, it's gonna be having quite a nice time dealing with all the buildings. And it's gonna be of course high time right now from Teal to switch right now the Allegiance and try to help it on the right flank. He has wanted to be establishing himself on the left, which still could be proved useful down the line. Like, let's not say that it wouldn't be possibly. Yeah, it's gonna be a chance. He's gonna be having to fight on both sides at once. No, it looks like it also right now. Red is gonna be trying to stream slowly but surely into the enemy base. No, and of course, gonna be having apparently only one barracks. So this is gonna be mostly like 1v1 between purple and red. Of course, medium spearman, that's gonna be there for with serpent spear, and that is pretty much it. Murmilos are gonna be medium with bite of the shark, and you can see right now double copper and bronze. So having quite a few more extra upgrades already in place. No, but all the way to the top side, we're actually moving pretty quickly through Artorias' base. I'm liking how they are not entirely wasting too much time, even though, for example, pulling down those houses, might be wanting to commit like one catapult to it, possibly. Might not be, or actually rather siege tower, because it's not gonna be threatened. Catapults are gonna be better here in the front lines. So yeah, that will be better that way. You can see army is gonna be about 40 better for the Deities of Death. No, that's actually gonna be realistically quite a lot more, because they have basically abandoned the water. Currently, the water shouldn't be entirely as much of a game changer, especially once, with what they are doing on the land in here. So I think they can certainly afford not to be fighting it anymore. And, well, what further potentially? You can see right now on the villages, still 40 more currently for the Deities of Death. And again, there's gonna be right now some difference in the fishing boats. It's gonna be maybe not entirely probably there at the same level. It's gonna be still some 10-15 villages, probably more, but it's at least something that's gonna be mitigating that evident disparity that we do have in the statistics in here. Okay, quite a nice and quick push forward here. Heavy charioteers are gonna be having copper weapons. Heavy peltas in here is gonna be a double copper and bronze for nerdology. It's gonna be apparently a mythical age from narcotic. Yes, I've now found and scrounged up all the resources for that. And well, he is doing how? Not entirely too badly. Seems to be right about now keeping automaton pretty much busy. At the same time, careful about, of course, the kills into archers. But he needs to be getting himself a few more destroyers so that he's gonna be a bit faster in here, it looks to me. And this is gonna be quite a good raid in. Not entirely all that reflected, it seems like, by Deities of Death here all that much by narcotic. But automaton has already lost another TC in there, and that will be there for... Oh, wait, what? Aha! That's random. Okay, well, didn't even see the yellow dot in there. But Phoenix apparently is having a his skill over TC, because it used to be his. Interesting. Well, that's a problem right now for him as well, extra. As he's gonna be finally... Yeah, the Italians are gonna be using right now the dogs in the middle. Happy for that. That is excellent and good to see. Let's take a screenshot of this rarity, and not entirely much of a common situation, as it looks like to the top side, though Deities of Death are doing pretty damn great. Not entirely on the upgrade line, at least they're gonna be kind of champions, right? And they have ballistics, so they have the important pieces. Heavy hopleys are gonna be double bronze and copper in here. It seems like he's gonna be doing well. And what is there for orange up to? So a bit of an army right now. That's gonna be what? Peltas. And they have their long cloak. They kind of look slightly similar before you realize what kind of weapon they are, of course, brandishing. And it's gonna be quite a bit of an easy. resolution of it all. No, and Artorias on the Bahamas. He's gonna be at, can say it now, 24 villages only. Having somehow like not 27. That's gonna be some boats here. 4 boats in here, maybe even something more. Definitely could be and should be going for some further fishing, so that he can slightly better bolster his economy back and bounce back as well in there, as it looks like an automaton on the left side though, even after losing the TC. And now reclaiming it. Fixing the problem with the Phoenix. Going to be having maybe some kind of opportunity for a counter-offensive against Narcotic, who, by the way, is having some, of course, Vortex at this point. He's going to be able to jump around, and he's certainly looking like he's preparing for that. He's going to be all bronzed already for the egg in here for purple. Camel Rider without anything at all. Not only line upgrades, but also not going to be having any kind of armory, as it looks like it's not, well, like literally. Automaton doesn't seem to be having any kind of military upgrades whatsoever, at all. It's strange. No, but nonetheless, the DoDs to right side, they are... At this point, it's kind of like hard to imagine how this is not gonna be going Dot's way, as they are, of course, increasing this distance to about like 100 on the villages, actually. That's gonna be the jump with all the units that we have here for Narcotic, sorry, which is, I think, a kind of okay idea. If the opponents are to be still fighting, this is something that maybe could be convincing them not to. So obviously, yes, there's gonna be some attack by Automaton, but he does it literally like one catapult, not even. Because he's not, of course, in the next age yet. It's kind of looking like a catapult, the crocodile in there a bit. But yep, not going to be legit, as the first game is going kind of okay for Deities of Death. The water was a decent fight, but in the end they decided it's not going to be worth it. And the transition into the land, again, as we always said for years and years in Medit, Medit is not as much about water as it is about the transition into the land. That is the important piece there. Because there's always an expectation you're gonna be having a large water fight. You should be having. And then, of course, it is about who's gonna be a bit more timely with the TCs. Switching to the next age, some maybe even classical fight, or again, heroic and then the fight. Depends. But nonetheless, the first game is upon us, or behind us rather, with... Right now, best of 5, so therefore at minimum 3 games are gonna be played today. So all copper for yellow, red is gonna be there for Lord having first iron, besides the bronze. Teal, double bronze and copper as well. Who is gonna be here? Orange. Quite a few Petroboli coming up, double copper and bronze. And all the way to the bottom, as you have seen, there was nothing in there for purple. Like nothing at all besides, you can see literally medium spearman and serpent spear are probably the only military upgrades he has ever gotten. That is red. Well, red we have probably already seen, right? Yes, he was the one with the iron in them. So we are missing blue. But it's unclear if he's actually even having any kind of units besides, I guess, the boats. It's gonna be the only thing. And he's gonna be having the first armor for them. For the fishing boats. Okay, so we are going to be right now having Prursane for one player, the other one Saltamphora. Red apparently ready for a comeback, but as an African fishing boat and nothing else. Yeah, nobody else seems to be really having anything here. So for the villages and their economical upgrades, are we right now having something curious here? So, second levels and plow for orange. He's not in the mythical age, so it can't be entirely getting too much better. For the middle, that's going to be one of each, plus the Book of Thoth. Was having that many farms? No, kinda starting maybe with a few. Can see not entirely the best positioning, for example, in here, but yeah, well, it's like one farm. So that's not entirely that horrible. Citizen for red is gonna be kinda low, when you think of it. Decent kind of basic help with the farming, if he actually had any kind of farms here. Currently doesn't seem to be entirely too much of a thing, yeah. Huh, it's kinda curious though. Is he hunting somewhere? He has to be, He absolutely had to be right now doing at least a bit of that. With, can say it now, it's gonna be purple, double upgrades. Yellow is gonna be currently playing with first and second. They really aren't entirely too deep on the upgrades at all. And double first one, considering that we are already at 22 minutes almost. Interesting. Not much flow, that's alright. This one is... No, the ISIS is certainly higher in here. Like you can say right now having what? 2, 4.5, 5, 6,000 resources more. That's not entirely that great. And 3,000 wood. Kind of classic here for Apple, but nonetheless. Also, it would be worthwhile to take somehow care of. However, we do have decent amount of favor in general. You can see Oranos 7 Oracles, very much enjoying that. Then even the Zeus was having tons of favor in here ready. Didn't even get to use the Underworld Passage. But he was ready for second restoration overall here. No one for the Idlers, no. Well, that's kind of clear right now for Automaton. And actually even for Teal, if you look at him, he's kind of having almost like a constant, fairly high level. So Neurology is having tons of Idlers here as well. For the others, looks like nothing too excessive. And everything kind of normal. Maybe here near the end it's going to be also Red Narcotic. Because he was also heavily focusing there for on. It's a bit interesting because he's Atlantean, so it should be easier. But I guess maybe focusing on the military. Maybe a bit too much to his detriment. As for the villagers, and this is of course including the fishing boats. Oh, what do we have otherwise here? Just a bit of an instant drop here for purple. No, yeah, that's kind of what I mentioned, right? When he was behind at the start. Because he lost the fishing boats immediately because he was advancing so stupidly late. 534. Well, luckily his teammates were able to pretty solidly carry. At the same time, maybe it was some kind of initiative for Artorias on the Bahamas to the right. So he was the one who actually took the damage for that. And hey, Mr. Drazil. Yeah, well, good luck to your team, Italia. Same as, of course, to Deities of Death. But so far, dots have started well here on the first merit. Military. So that's gonna be, no, well, decent fight, of course, from the start. You can see quite a nice increase from Automaton right after. But again, the missing fishing already in there. I just gonna set him into a bit of a complicated pace. And of course, dots are super experienced on Medit. And for the resources, we have something curious in here. Now, it's gonna be just like a comparison between the ITCs, right? You can say that it's gonna be already 100 resources there. Otherwise, they're quite a bit behind. For example, Nerdology in here and Narcotic even. Nicely played by Nerd. And you can say it now in a few minutes. No, that's gonna be literally in a couple of minutes, 2.5 minutes later. That's gonna be ECC in yellow, 800 resources above Automaton, just because Automaton didn't have the fishing boats there anymore. And just like, of course, wasn't able to recuperate from that for the whole game. So basically there was even worse fate waiting for Artorias, so that's why it's not gonna be still last, but yeah, the difference is already right now here, quite significantly. And it was 2 players from the same team. At the same time, not a bad play by Automaton, all things considered. Even with limited economy in there. But, of course, couldn't match what Apoy was able to perform then with his own ISIS. Can say now the resources then, just like a 1600 through top side between Nerd and Narco. However, of course, the drop after, especially right now, can say now 2, 2, and it's gonna be 5 here at the end. Automaton is already quite a bit far away, almost 10k resources, 9, 7. Not, of course, much of a reason to compare here with Artorias, considering the difficult fate that he was having. Decent favor for Narcotic. Again, the 7 Oracles make sense. We didn't have a Norse for anything else. So nobody was really focused in the favor too much, as you can see. Maybe a bit, you can see Nerdology at 140 and Zeus at 250s. They are having a bit more as the Grecos. And apparently also, no, 224 for Apple. That's gonna be there for multiple monuments, right? Yeah, 3 for him, 2 for purple. On the military. That's gonna be there for Nerdology. Collecting from the water. You'll be having plenty kills there. With that, if you remember the Pentaconter Armada that he was having an Apple, no, well, not doing too badly there himself. Of course, he also Chariot Archers, so he'll be getting plenty kills because of that. Kind of funny, you can see Automaton and Artorias. Most common unit are gonna be actually boats for them. Even for Automaton, it's a bit kind of curious. Because they're probably the biggest fighter in there for his team. And, well, the advance is just Narcotic, kind of reasonable. Otherwise, everybody really 440 is late, but at least they agreed on that. However, of course, the 530 for Automaton was way too extreme. And that was kind of like what set up the troubles. They did win the water after all, but it was just like so late. And so consequently, the Deities of that just didn't care anymore. GG. So we're gonna be right now heading into the second home map, and that's gonna be there for right now. The map from, I think it should be at this point for EOM Italia. I'm not entirely certain if they are always gonna like holding true to that or not. Okay, let's see. Should be probably getting to run somewhere. I've already seen this before, that it's gonna be lagging, unfortunately. I don't know if they moved us on some kind of trashier servers or whatever they have actually done. But nonetheless, Divided Timberlands, bit of an interesting game actually happened in here. It was between UCAS and ITCs actually. It's kind of like the wild one, where they tried to be Russian the ISIS or some kind of Egyptian in here. Didn't entirely work out for the UCAS too well, but yeah, it was one hell of a fight. However, there was a bit of a problem for ITCs, so it would actually make a kind of sense that it would be their home map. There was problem for them that one of their players, I don't entirely remember which one at this point, was having for like 2 minutes and plus like about 20 villages idle, which certainly didn't help them too seriously, and that might have been the reason why they didn't win it, because it was otherwise incredibly scrappy game, especially from UCAS. And well, they did manage to battle through that. But after all, they are right now both in. Right now the losers bracket at the same level. So we'll see if it's gonna be there for that much of a consequence what happened in that match. Or maybe if they're gonna be even meeting in the next round in the semifinals of the losers bracket. But for the gods, therefore Divided Timberland, that's gonna be Apple playing with Terra. You can say it now for the opposing side, it's gonna be also Egyptian here. Sepia Pigra, who's gonna be choosing the same. Seems like it maybe the meta is a bit coalescing here for this map, looking at the same safe choice. Then we do have for yellow, Apoy for Deities of Death, it's gonna be Thor. He is not going for the armor build, as you can see, he's gonna be going for the water bonus rather. It's interesting. I guess he's gonna be going to water and then he's gonna be switching into armory and doubling it, maybe. It's gonna be pretty slow though. So we'll see. Narcotic on the right side, he's gonna be playing with Oranos yet again. And, well, he's not gonna be dabbling. No. Not gonna be dabbling on the water, he's just gonna be leaving it to one of the players. Because otherwise, you don't entirely have as many fishing spots in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is the maximum you have. And if you would be even split like 3 and 3 per player, that really wouldn't be making any kind of sense. It just kind of wouldn't be even all that much worthwhile to think about the upgrades there. So better to be playing this way, drop like a second dock for the other fish, and let's go. So Automaton is gonna be right now playing the Odin in here. So he's gonna be also the Norse, taking the advantage of the water in here. You can say it's also quite an easy gold mine beyond the base. No, and all the way up, that's gonna be the last player, Nerdolgin, who's gonna be playing with the Hades in here. He's just gonna switch the position of the gods, and who's gonna be taking what, and how, and whatever along those lines. No, and is somebody already going through or not? Not yet. Not having any kind of experimentation with an Aztec this time around here. Okay, there's a temple for Apple. Even empowering it. Looks like that therefore he's gonna be filled on resources already. Kind of. Maybe didn't necessarily have to be rushing as much, especially since he maybe even wanted to be finishing that last villager in here. But well, maybe next time. However, it doesn't entirely matter too seriously much. It's gonna be a little difference in that, but yeah, even those little differences maybe could be kind of interesting for the further progress. Because, you know, like there's the empowerment, there are some villagers working in here. Like you could be saying they're just gonna be building it faster, but the problem is, yeah, not in AoE 2, where the villagers would be having the same kind of like addition. Or is it? I'm hoping that it hasn't been changed on Retold, I just forgot. Well, in the original game, of course, you'll be just having the first village 100% and the others would be adding only 30% build points. At this point, I'm legitimately having a blank if maybe they haven't changed this stupidly in Retold, but I'm hoping not. So you're gonna be having a break and a pause. It's already 3 minutes plus, so it shouldn't be anything about like the position of the players, hopefully. Because they were speculating and talking about that during kind of like the preparation for the game. Because unfortunately, well, these maps are not entirely well working with the positions by the numbers. You have to be even actually players joining in a certain way. It's kind of really funny that they actually implemented it in such a completely stupid way. Because there was a way how it was done by modders how it was kind of hacked into the game by the community in the original game. But that the devs would be using the same and being so stupidly lazy not to actually make it even properly, as it is in AoE 2, for example, just kind of shows you exactly how much they care. Oh, but you can see it in every single patch and whatever kind of changes they made, so yeah, no need to be reiterating on that as far as what Age of Mythology means to these guys. But nonetheless, we are gonna be at this point therefore having, okay, interesting balling. Kind of entirely certain, I guess, what's going to happen in here, so just wants to be making sure he's gonna be having everything under at least some level of control. But there probably shouldn't be all that much of a quick attack here, right? Can't say it now. I'm just gonna be curious about the Oranos though, because since he doesn't have the water, then is he gonna be like fast heroic? He's having right now military barracks, so it looks like he's gonna be probably rather trying to join for at least a bit of a fight. Can see it now. Classic Oceanus is gonna be his choice. He's gonna be playing there for with. I can see right now the resources. Nothing entirely stockpiling here, so he is playing some classical. Caladria, okay, so he's going to be. It's gonna be very curious to be having the Caladria in here, because theoretically it might be helping if there would be a water fight by Sepia Pigra and Apple. So a bit of extra healing could be actually coming in quite a bit handy, and that's something that the opponents won't be able to supply. Okay, so everybody through. 5-13. Bit maybe faster than the latest one in the previous game, but at the same time not entirely too significantly better. And some of the players were also quite a bit slow in here. As well, it looks like Tapo is gonna be there for coming in to join, because obviously there's a difference kind of like, and the problem slightly for the players that you're not entirely like teams per teams. It's kind of what the new maps that we are playing upon are having as a special feature, which is very nice, because it's obviously quite a bit unusual, and the players have to be thinking about the maps quite a bit differently. Okay, so towers upgraded for Sepia Pigra immediately, getting ready with 2 barracks. He's actually a lot better prepared, by the way. Looking at the defenses here against his opponents. You can see to the top side, Apple is gonna be towered as well, but he otherwise is fairly open. Is there gonna be somebody utilizing it? Apparently not. Oh, Automaton going for a second TC instead of push, and so is right now Neurology. Yeah, this reminds me, I think this was really the last game, or the game between ITC and UCAS. Just kinda reminds me, they were also playing second TCs in there, so hopefully this time they're not gonna be having the major mishap with the Will Idols. Because they just like absolutely killed them. Like 20 villages idle, and it was also at some bot 12 minutes of a game maybe. Really early. Maybe actually even earlier than that, and it just like absolutely murders your chances for anything good. Especially on such a top level. Okay, Sky Passage for the hunt, and just maybe also a bit of a shortcut from the base. Therefore doesn't have to be right now pulling it all, and every single time as the heroic ages are they therefore coming. So for the blue player, not entirely, as you can tell. For red, neither. So neither of them are gonna be right now attempting some faster heroic, at least a bit. Because yeah, sure, you certainly need to be getting a bit of an army at the start, but when you're gonna be seeing that the opponents aren't entirely all that combative here, might be interesting actually thought for dots. Just to be pushing through it, trying to destroy one of the players, and hoping that the others are not gonna be entirely fleeing away from you too much. So there legitimately might be something to that. Can see on the military we have quite a bit of a difference in favor of dots. That's kind of understandable now, that's the second DCs. So far it's not visible on the villages, but that should be changing pretty soon. That should be changing pretty soon in favor of the Italian clan. So let's see if it will. Svaril Farisledge, yeah sure, that's actually pretty great. Gonna be able to right now drop as many hill forts as he can. That is a great relic, by the way, to be picking up. For the favor, not necessary at all, especially for a Norse. That's a huge bonus, considering he's also very likely to be having more myth units, and they are one of the civilizations that's gonna be having the most of them. I kind of wonder what is actually the comparison, if it's gonna be, and who's gonna be the most common, if it's them or Atlanteans. It's kind of curious that it's not Greeks, right? Because they were designed for that, but yeah, well, the reality is always a bit more varied than just that. Because I mean, like what is it? The Atlanteans are a bit trickier because they have been somewhat squishier, and you will be relying on the Prometheans, for example. So for the Norse, it's kind of a bit more evident that they are having plenty of myth units. But again, the Atlanteans aren't usually too far behind themselves. However, further defense at this point, of course, from methodology, make an excellent sense that it's gonna be necessary in here for the time being. So what do we have? Blue, bit of an army, nothing too serious, gonna be just gonna keeping the opponent busy. And this is right now what we need to be looking at, because we have some multicolored dots in the teal base, and it's gonna be partly defense, and it's of course plenty more mill, so therefore only spearmen are not gonna be entirely cutting it. Gonna be needing at least a few axemen to be added into the mix. And there's gonna be already heroic age coming from Sepia Pigra. So ITCs are gonna be a bit faster about it. It was a bit unlucky, because the shockwave for some reason actually took mainly the ox cart instead of, for example, the villages nearby. It was a bit interesting behavior. Well, let's get in protected, but at least he's gonna be forcing at least a few of them into the sentry tower. Maybe he can be trying to be a bit annoying, trying to pull it down even, and get the villages after. But it's also causing plenty idlers, and it's also very interestingly causing him to eat his cows pretty early. It's only 10 minutes into the game, and he's already gonna be out of cows, so he's gonna be therefore escalated even further as far as the opportunity of where to attack. Okay, medium slingers in here, for example. Besides the medium Murmos, otherwise purple is not gonna be heading too much, or having too much as far as the upgrades. Just like a kind of fresh addition currently. But also second TC coming forward for yellow. And so it's now good to know that will be Apoy with the Norse for Deities of Death. No, anybody's guess where the forest fire... that is actually the forest fire going. Seeing the embers in the air already. Okay, let's run away still, as it looks like it's gonna be somewhat of a complicated battle in the teal base. I need to be orientating myself according to colors, because again, it's also not the easiest to orientate myself in, considering that red is actually the enemy of teal, not his friend, because we are not playing kind of like the standard distribution of the players across the map on divided Timberland. Doesn't entirely seem like it's gonna be too easy to pull the TC down, but we don't have any kind of towers here, because obviously it's a secondary TC, and not like the towers would have been upgraded even there. And looks like the teal is, as he was already building in his base, pretty much giving up on this. So that's a decent success right now for Narcotic, with his team, with Apple and Apoy. You can see army-wise about 45 population limit more for DoD. And for the villages, by the way, as well. They're gonna be having 24 more villages, which is actually fairly impressive currently, that they are playing this so nicely. And so far, looks like they have prepared really well for the match. I mean, like, it's a double elimination tournament, but this is already losers bracket, so whoever's gonna be out now can be forgetting about the title. Maybe just like an extra motivation for dots. But really looks like that ITCs are at this point kinda like the first time I'm seeing them that they are kinda getting outplayed, at least here in the first two games. That really they have, because I mean, like, even when they were playing against Ukas, for example, they were having really tight and close games in there, and the result also was pretty close-ish. It wasn't, and I don't think it was 3-0, right? I'm entirely certain it was all 5 games, or 4. But it was a nice match. Actually, wait a second. Or actually, that was a 3-0, but it was actually pretty close to games. Yeah, that's how it was. It was a 3-0, but the first 2 games were actually pretty long. And good. And they weren't any kind of easy time. Okay. No, well, Sepia Pigra just gonna rather actually hide in right next to his teammate, just in case there's gonna be a problem. He's gonna smart choice. No, and is he gonna be having like a counter-offensive attempt? It's also interesting position right now by Apple. Trying to also join with his teammates kind of, but not entirely even heading like a bit closer. Maybe could have been getting even this TC possibly. But yeah, well, they have a different plan, and it looks like there are some basic preparations for yellow, but theoretically blue might be a game changer in here, if he's gonna be playing this well. No, but it's gonna be still pretty hard, as it looks like it may be... I was gonna say he's gonna be getting rid of the dogs. He did get rid of one. So actually he might be getting rid of the other one as well. sometime soon, with Apple getting even a 3rd TC. It feels like that it's getting a bit out of hand right now, or it has gotten out of hand for the AM Italia team. The 40 villages in there, it's just like way too much of a longer term difference already. It's only 14 minutes and you have already so many vills more. It's just like so much more efficiently played by Dots. They had a very similar idea how to do this and what to do on this map. I wonder if it's gonna be based on exactly the previous match, but Dots are just doing it so much better. Seems like at this point that they are mastering the strat. What is this? Just even on the scouting trip. Nothing specific here in the blue base, just seems to be just like still waiting in here. And that is certain what for. Can say it now, Heroic HE is not gonna be leaving anytime soon. Because I mean like he legitimately doesn't have too much of a bad army. Just needs to be getting extra siege weapons, and it feels to me that maybe he's not realizing it all that well. They should be knowing that of course the cavalry is raiding on their part of the map, so therefore that should be basically like free real estate in here. And they are not gonna think in that way. Seems like it. Maybe it's gonna be because he's really concerned about Orange, because he hasn't really been having too much of a presence on the other side. So they are expecting him somewhere nearby. And they are therefore a bit afraid they're gonna be losing the whole base. No, it's not gonna be immediate. I mean like Migral, towers, TC, pretty compact base. That's not something anybody is gonna be wanting to attack into too early and too easily. Unless, of course, you're gonna be having some cool myth. Good power. That could be helping out with that, possibly. However, looks like it will be some kind of fortifications in here, not too much. Seems like we're having some kind of like breaks lately in the activity. Seems like it maybe Blue is gonna be trying to at least move ahead with something. Difference in the villages has already increased into 60. Like, and that's literally in just like minute and a half, 2 minutes actually. That grew 50%. Army is gonna be also a massive difference by 90 population limit. They just at this point need to be bringing everything to bear upon the opponents. Well, and as this is right now going on, I'm looking into Red, who is actually attacking again into Automaton. Yeah, that's not looking entirely too super hot in there. As of course the PvP is trying to at least gain something in here. But looking at the combination of the units and the sizes of them, and of course the fact you're gonna be fighting in the middle of military buildings for narcotic, shouldn't be too bad here for Orange. Actually, it's gonna be really great for him. I'm looking at that. Well, it seems like right now the Apple is, you can see they're having similar idea what to do here. But again, execution is gonna be different. Assistance coming from the Radiology though, so that's gonna be a different story. The Ovoplites, and since we are having mostly heavy slingers, even with the divine damage from Electrum bullets, might be able to at least slow him down, but the size of the army really is kinda scary. How is it with threat? Oh, 130 population limit, okay, that's good. For the opponent, you can see 90 here for a purple. Teal will be playing with only 30, he doesn't have anything besides maybe some help from trees. This won't be saving anybody. By the way, all the upgrades, or all the god powers rather unused, unfortunately for him. And if you're gonna be looking at blue, for example, he's gonna be unfortunately defeated. As he is down to only 15 units, he's gonna be now getting pushed back by some combination of yellow and orange. You're gonna be looking at that in a moment. Once the trees and all the army from Radiology is gonna be apparently sufficient to finally at least get Apple a bit running. Oh, he's gonna be able to right now finish that. He's having enough army to sacrifice in here, so he's fine. That is not a concern. Those trees are a concern though, and the lack of priests. Okay. Repairos. No, there we go. That was pretty close actually. I mean, like it's a bit tricky, right? Because they don't start repairing immediately. You need to be given a new command. So you need to be kind of realizing what's going to be happening right after. So that was kind of close actually in the end. However, success plus keep repairing. Pharaoh, well, at this point you can be just empowering anyway. And it seems like that on the other side of the map though, blue also managed to successfully defend in here. As yellow is gonna be not entirely going home to lick his wounds, considering he's right now fully health. However, somebody else in here, like for example orange, heavy archery, double copper and bronze, 80 population limit. Is it hidden? Oh, there it is. Aha. There's a sky passage actually hidden in here. Okay then. There's also right now a trade going on by Sepia picked up. I'm liking that. That is definitely nice. I'm always enjoying when people are gonna be going for some quick trade. Because again, people need to be learning that. It is just like an alpha omega of successful team game in my opinion. Unless you're gonna be full committing to like a triple rush in classical age and all in, the trade, especially for Egyptians, needs to be there really soon. Okay, so we are spawning wolfies into completely random spots here. 185 villages, already lost about 5. Keep dropping for the moment. There they are. Hard right now to see across the map, but we didn't get any kind of big spawns unfortunately here into the top. It's a bit unlucky. We got the big one into an inconsequential TC where there was an army already. No, and Apoy is gonna be actually getting himself a 3rd TC as well. He is gonna be population limit wise fully built. Just not having the 45 TC currently in here. No, but hard one to imagine at this point how it's gonna be actually turned around here for the Italians. But let us see. They did manage to almost win it against the Uncrapables, and that was just like a game all over the place. So, no, this is kinda slightly chaotic as well, but it's just the whole design of the map. But overall, it seems like it really Deities of that are having quite a bit of a solid plan on their hands. So that's one of the biggest armies of slingers I have seen in a long time. That's not entirely as much of a super common way to play, but there's gonna be the resignation already coming through, and we are therefore going to be having a 2-0 lead for Deities of Death after the first 2 games. So we're gonna be heading into the 2 games that are the homes for the one who lost the previous one. So you're gonna be heading into another one from the Italians. That's gonna be the first match point for Deities of Death. But really, so far, based on the first 2 games, this is probably the first match I'm seeing ICTs, or ITC, sorry. ITCs, the Italians, kind of struggling a bit. That their opponents are looking like they are a bit better prepared for them. So far, somewhat decently controlled by the Deities of Death. But we'll see what's going to be there for the next map. Maybe that's going to be a way and start for some epic and massive comeback. So for Heavy Peltas, as far as the upgrades, you're going to be having right now all copper for him. For Heavy Slingers in red, it's gonna be double copper and bronze. It's a 20-minute game already as well. Time flies really quick once you get into some later stages. For the blue player, he is gonna be playing with nothing but specific upgrades, which is kinda cool as well though. Heavy Destroyers, double copper bronze. That's Tirfing, right? No, Grass Cutting Sword, sorry. Tirfing looking a bit different. Medium throwing X-Men, for example, with double iron and bronze. Just the line upgrades therefore need to be coming up, but he was focusing the cavalry, so I guess makes sense. He's rather better prepared there. And the last one, that would be there for Teal, right? If he has at least a few units somewhere. There it is. That is a unit medium berserk, and unfortunately nothing. Kind of expected that it's gonna be that way, based on him having the hardest time. As you can see now, first upgrades for Teal. If you're gonna be continuing within the team, the Lodge is gonna be at least having irrigation, but still pretty low, like all around. No, not much better there. Red is gonna be playing with double upgrades. Yeah, we can say now these are gonna be, of course, the differences. They really started with the economy so much better, and it's just gonna snowballs into all of these advantages that right now resulting into victory. Just missing Shaft Mine upgrade into Cavalry, and the last one is gonna be double and first within the line of the others. So just kind of like a good play by Apoy, it looks like, for example. But he was also having the extra economy from the fishing boats, so that obviously helps. And he's having such nice upgrades, and he actually forgets about Salt Amphora. Come on, nothing here even. Red is going to be having also not. It's very interesting how basically none of the Egyptians was expecting to be continuing fishing here. So they didn't even bother even with Persane. Not like, again, you are having that many fishing spots here. But it's a bit interesting spot still to be controlling for him. Be like a quick transports in there, and blockading the opponent on the other side. It's a funny thought of a map. Because I don't entirely remember this kind of setup in AoE2 even. This is maybe like an original here, which if it's coming from another game. But I don't remember this kind of setup in AoE2. AoE2 is having specifically Archipelago, but that's also present in AOM, where you don't have to be spawning next to your teammates. And usually you aren't. Usually there's gonna be one player who's gonna be like amongst the enemy in team games. Automaton having Pursein as well. No, but well, let's therefore have a look into some further information. For example, as you can see, Red was advancing into a Mythical Age, into Horus. Otherwise, resources not too bad for anybody that I'm seeing here. Just a bit of extra gold here for yellow. That's something that maybe could be a bit optimized. And a bit more food here for Nerdology. Managed to find himself with. But not too extreme just yet. So yet again purple. That's what you can say here. Seems to be having a day. Yellow is also kind of often present. You can see Apoy. Notices it fairly quickly. Just like in several seconds, but still. It's kind of common here. But again, it's hard to be gauging it with this map. Because this is a map that is not entirely all that well ingrained within the players. So it's a whole different story than to play the standards, where you have in your teams on one spot. It is like a whole different feeling. You are a bit thrown as far as some kind of automatisms. So they just need to be getting used to it still. So I'm gonna be expecting that you're gonna be having some idles extra because of that. And like brain capacity being consumed for that. Something else here. Blue. A bit here, but it's kinda okay. Otherwise, doesn't seem like there's anything all that much worthwhile else than what we have already mentioned. No, immediate drop right now on the villages for Sepia Pigra, unfortunately. I can see that in Automaton after that early attack just quickly followed through as well. And from this kind of position you can see on the vills, that's where we have gotten into such an early edge of about 40 vills already here at 13 minutes. And well, there's just like almost no way to be catching up to that at this level. You can see right now the military, same situation. Huge army right now early from Apple. You can see right now also from Narcotic. Really, those just kind of played really well, because they were going both the extra TCs and the economy, and at the same time they also managed to have some pretty solid army with it. Just like well played, to be honest. They took ITC strategy and just did it better. As you have seen multiple times, that's kind of what you can take from this game. So maybe it's gonna be the Masters ITCs to actually learn at this point how to improve their strat for the next tournaments, or well, whatever kind of games they're gonna be playing. Okay, so Apple is gonna be at the back in here. Just like a little difference, 50. It's nothing consequential, it's literally how your resources, for example, spawn, you can get from that. And you can see top is gonna be Apoy, well done. Compared with the Odin in here from Automaton. And he wasn't going for any kind of armor, it was only water build both. And here, even at 4.5 minutes, you're gonna be having the Thor already 200 resources above almost. Maybe also like a civilization choice therefore. Materin, and he never let go, understandably, because then he's gonna be also getting the extra dwarves in there. And again, he's just like running away even further. 1000 at 832. So that is a hell of a difference. And Aegis, red and blue, that's gonna be already 700 difference as well in favor of Apple. So you can see now how quickly it is born, the advantage for dots. And not much to be done after, no, unfortunately, for AOM Italia. And Nerdology was able to kind of keep up here. Still 2000 behind, but at least he's not letting the opponent completely disappear in the distance. However, for example, first and last already here. At 40 minutes, you have almost like double the economy for Apoy compared to Sepia Pigra. And the finish. That's gonna be, of course, understandably Automaton at the bottom, more than double the economy in there. And just like, again, some slight echelons, can see right now the bottom in here. Then the middle is also within certain reach. And just Apoy being a bit overwhelming. And he was having the 3000 gold at the end left and kind of like overflowing. So you could say that he's not like necessarily 6000, could have been like 3 and still would have been fine and more efficient therefore in the play. However, again, tons of gold for him. Even beating the Egyptian in here, but the Egyptians are having a bit of a funny role in this game. And in this position where you're gonna be putting them. Not gonna be necessary, of course, the boomers. Good favor for narcotic. Again, therefore, he was having some oracles. Oh, 10, yeah. Loving people finally started doing that. Not gonna be tired of actually repeating that. Took people only like a year to realize what we've been saying from the start. But they can say it now. Apoy, quite nice village skilled for himself, but whatever the case. On the military, you can see he wasn't focusing on that. So apparently likes to be murdering the innocents there a bit. And the civilianos. However, Apple, interestingly, gonna be getting right now the most kills with his slingers. Neurology, on the other hand, not too far himself. And they were kind of fighting a lot near the finish of the game. For the advances, you can say it now kind of late. At least some of them. You can see very interesting. Narcotic is gonna be quick. Okay, so just several players are gonna be actually a bit later. Apoy, interestingly, 5 minutes, even without the armory. But heavy water, you can say now for automaton, it's gonna be somewhat of a similar idea for the Norse builds. 424 neurology, Sepia Pigra 508. Now you can see right now that's the difference, right? You're just gonna be so much quicker in here for the dots, as they were taking the town centers there as well. Can say right now neurology and automaton are gonna be first in that, even with later advances. So the first army in here for Deities of Death was helping them to kind of set the pace, and then they could be getting the TCs without too much of a contest. And they were basically already controlling the game, and they could be just doing whatever they really wanted. You can see even the distraction of the TC there for about automaton. So yeah, it seems like this is a bit better idea, no? Just like a first, some kind of classical army, and then it's gonna be done. Yep, just a bit of a different approach. Same as Heroic Ages through that, but the start decided all. GG. And hey, Bachi. Hey. So you're gonna be there for it. 2-0 already. And the first match point for Deities of Death in the best of 5 is up on us. Let's go then. So the first match point for Deities of Death is gonna be upon us. It will be a standard water in home that ITCs have chosen as their home map, number 2 for the match, since they have lost the previous one. And we are going to be revealing the map. Butterflies fine. And we're gonna be having to pause it again once everything is gonna be running in here, right? Classic. No, nonetheless, let's go therefore. So we're going to be having Apple playing a bit of set. Right off the bat, he's gonna be actually quite nicely locked off, as you can see. Easy wall there, short one there, short one here. Having somewhat of a nice little corner of the map to himself that he can live with. And he's gonna be, by the way, playing in the pocket, if I see it correctly. Yeah, so, okay, set in the pocket. Interesting, kind of. Usually it tends to be on the flank. But Narcotic is gonna be the Gaia to the top side. And we are having currently... Not really too much to be talking about in here. Fairly open in the front. You can say this is a large swath of land to be walling off. I'm not entirely also certain how far away and deep those ponds are going to be, because it sometimes can be a bit tricky if you can be passing somewhere through them or not. Used to be, at least in the original game. Here it's maybe a bit clearer on Retold. As for the last player on the team, that's going to be Apoy to the south. It's going to be playing with Freyr. Now looking at the gods and the positions, it looks like a setup for some second TCs in here rather than actual early attack. And for the opposition, of course, there's Automaton, and it's gonna be Tsukuyomi for him. Interesting positioning, because they're gonna be having right now Drazil, taken the Gaia from Auto. You'll be expecting Artorias on the Bahamas, usually has been playing with the Tsukuyomi, and into the Raiden with the Japanese, either with the Cavalry or then with the Wolfies. Or what is it? I mean, like it's a wolf, right, the Raiju, somewhat like a, maybe a dog, I don't know. Somewhat along those lines, some kind of wild wolf probably, or dire wolf. So it's gonna be there for Gaia, the bottom side, across the map. Tsuku in the middle, that's gonna be there for some raiding party for sure. And a Rolja with Poseidon, interesting. Temple down, okay. Looks like it's gonna be there for raiding game. Maybe a bit of different expectations. Because it feels to me that dots are coming here expecting second TCs, and it looks like that UCAs are actually, or UCAs, ITCs are rather going for an early rush. How's he looking at the Gaia? Is she gonna be right now picking up the rear and going for the Echo in case the attack fails, or is she gonna be joining? So far no tempo. It doesn't seem like she's gonna be joining too quick. Yet again, pause. Somebody scoring in football, maybe? What is currently going on? Currently there's the Germany match, right? But what else do we have elsewhere, maybe? Oh, by the way, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo. I'm just gonna so much used to Tsukuyomi. I mean, like, I really quite often confuse them, even though Tsukuyomi on the standard picture is having like the white background. But I don't know, for some reason my brain is not entirely able to differentiate those two very well. So I just usually orientate myself when I see the god power. Should have been looking for that first to be able to tell the god properly, but it's not entirely too much of a difference, right? It's gonna be still a similar idea what they're gonna be going for. Maybe therefore more likely to go for exactly the right juice because of the extra favor you're gonna be having here from Susa. And I guess you can be looking at the relics. In the meantime, we are going to be collecting which one? Mother Nature is gonna be providing us with Jade Hair for the Myth unit speed. This is actually fairly nasty. Right next to the Japanese to be having such a nice relic. Maybe even more motivating him towards that. Then Shirang for the wall region. Maybe also finding some use here. Shenong's Ochre Whip for farming, of course. Next one. Arrows of the Alfar for extra damage for the buildings. So you're gonna be continuing with Svarilfari Sledge again. Didn't entirely help last game. Maybe this time it's gonna be a bit different. Blue Crystal Shard is excellent. Especially, of course, on Retold. Dragon Palace Crystal, maybe. Come on. Okay. Seems like gonna be right now good. Not really stuttering in here with the movement. Anyway, so Dragon Palace Crystal therefore. For some extra hit points for the walls and towers. Maybe in combination with the healing, not entirely, or regeneration, not entirely too much of a bad thing. Feathers of Heaven, sure, I guess. Some extra divine damage. Maybe we've already picked up whatever there was for purple. No, hardly. Maybe it's, I mean, like, it's not gonna be stolen by the guy this soon, right? Like, what is it? Did it just gonna like spawn wrong and somewhere in the middle of the map? Because everybody should be having a relic in their lobe. And I'm thinking that on Retold you should be pretty much having two. It really feels like they have spawned all kinds of kind of funny. 2, 2, 1. And that's gonna be extra one here in the middle for Head of Orpheus, which is nice. Yeah, it feels like that actually right now purple was screwed massively. And also so was at the same time his opponent here. Mr. Drazi, so it's gonna be at least fair pair the teams. But yeah, some of the relics should have been definitely in different spots. Blanket of Empress Zoe, and I guess the last one in the very middle of the map, that's gonna be Charon's Obol. No. Definitely I'm thinking that who is Victor is gonna be yellow. So how is he right now going? He's gonna be going through into 5 minutes. Looks like a fast hero here, maybe even. Can say now Setesh is gonna be advancing into Ptach. So shifting sense are gonna be an availability. At the same time, it's also maybe a good signal exactly for the second TC. Exactly as expected. Narcotic is through, and resource-wise, he's not entirely looking like a TC. He's gonna be right now wanting to get some early army. He's playing against Neurology with the Posse, who obviously is gonna be right now expected to be having some early fights. Yep, he was advancing quickly enough for that. And all the way through bottom, Mr. Drasil is really gonna be the one to kind of like balance what his teammates are gonna be doing. He's gonna be going for the Echo himself, sorry. Whereas the Freyr for Apoy, there's a second DC, not much. But also not entirely much military, so it could be. Didn't even cast right now the Asgardian Bastion yet. Yeah, I'm not entirely certain right now what's gonna be the plan for Apoy. I'm trying to remember in the past games because we have streamed those before. And I'm trying to remember if maybe it was Apoy in one of the games who was actually doing some maybe like faster mythic or whatever. But I don't think it was with Freyr, but at this point not entirely fully remembering if I actually have the correct memories of all of that. However, some first horses right now coming forward from Nerdology, following after what he has already right now inserted into the enemy base. Oh, and you can see Automaton was having some first foxes in here, wants to be collecting some Bushido. So that, well, he could be having maybe a bit easier, therefore transition to the Heroic Age. That's the fast Heroic, of course, coming up into the Raijus. And as he therefore discovered this, I'm too lazy to be switching through hotkeys today, so yeah, well, hopefully he noticed that, because that's gonna be super key if we are really going for the Raijus, and I'm fairly certain that we are. Well then, so second TC in the end is gonna be also coming for Apoy, so it was just gonna be delayed in there. Not sure if maybe he could have used that for some different build order for that. Maybe he wasn't really certain what Mr. Brazil is gonna be doing, because really with the Gaia, that's not entirely what we were used to in the original game. She's actually really quite a versatile goddess that has answers to plenty things and can be doing plenty things as well on Retold. So you just better be careful to be scouting her properly, to be knowing what's up, so that you don't possibly find yourself a bit too surprised. However, considering now the army is gonna be still at this point better for Deities of Death. Armory not really getting finished in here for the time being. By the way, for Apple, yeah, that's the region coming up. Let's get in some army buildings. Looks like he was probably trying to get rather actually to TC fastly heroic at this point here, Apple somehow. But it's getting a bit complicated with Orange Cavalry in his base and somewhat of a limited protection of his base in general with anything else. Nobody is helping. No, definitely not going to be Apoy, who has just finished with the TC. Now he's getting his first military building in there. And for the Gaia to the top, seems to be rather actually set up for the defensive positioning, which is kind of weird maybe, considering that he's not TC in. How much army does he have now? 24. So it's like something small that he's irradiant with. But again, there's like probably more damage done by Orange on the other side of the map, because at this moment with the second TC in here, I don't think that actually Nerdology is gonna be having as much of a problem. Caladria dead again, unfortunately. That's gonna be somewhat of a small success with the Foxes. It should be handleable if you could be at least turning one of the catapultas into a hero, or, well, you could be also using the Citizen here, who already is a hero. Nice rubber banding in there. In that, however, all the way south, seems like the Hippicons are exactly causing the damage that we have said that they are going to be. You can see you forcing off the gold. Apple is gonna be there for right about now, playing with almost the resources, but specifically missing the gold. You can see how much of a good play this is by Nerdology. 4 hippies, small little disruption, and suddenly we are actually buying ourselves like a minute extra of the classical age for the enemy and being slow in, switching into whatever he's gonna be wanting to go for, probably some charioteers to kick it off. Oh. Will be even a few Chemos, but whatever. Simply some Migdol units coming up. No, so good play. Therefore, that's what you can say. And look at the wall in here on the map, though. He saw some heavy plans for Apoy. There has been quite a bit of talk about actually who should be walling in the teams. It's very logical that it's gonna be Norse. If he's not gonna be interested himself in some kind of early damage and early attack, then he's definitely the most suitable. It's gonna be costing some resources, sure, so you need to be accounting for that in your economy build-up and everything. But the fact that you don't have to be using villagers is just like saving so much resources. Because if you're gonna be building such walls, even for like one of the players by himself, and he's gonna be having to use will, you just lose so much time gathering with that. You're gonna be doing it for several minutes probably, including like the walk back and forth, and we're just kinda talking about 100 resources plus easily. Just per, what, minute 40, right? That the village is not gonna be working. No, nonetheless, Raijus are gonna be there for in, and now the question is, are we prepared for that? Because of course the biggest under threat player would be a Greek. We don't have that here within the team, so we are having some Hersers for Apoy, so hopefully it's gonna be fine. Narcotic theoretically is gonna be vulnerable. It doesn't have too many heroes and might be slightly complicated as a Gaia. Unfortunately only 2 oracles. Oh, that could be an issue. No, and for last player, therefore for Apple, he shouldn't be really challenged at all. Again, bit of a shame. Again, they don't have the Greeks in there. Deities of Death, that's gonna be definitely, and would be, a dream come true for Automaton. He did pick up the speed, it looks like, right? 6.6. Yes, Jade Hair is in. So, all good. Kaya 3 right now to the bottom somewhere. What do we have? Double counter, double military so far. Triple military therefore. So far continue with the Murmilos, but usually of course there's gonna be some switch into the horses sooner rather than later. Yeah, definitely gonna be needing at least a bit of oracles. He's having literally one currently, Mr. Brazil. Mentally certain where he lost all of them, probably some aggressive scouting, but that's pretty much it. And looks like there's gonna be some first fight happening here. And Automaton could have been actually a bit careful. What he could have done is actually throw them into the middle of the Murmilos. The Murmilos would be quite a bit happy for that. Because of course the advantage of the range is like one of the key reasons why they're gonna be winning the fight against the Murmos. But if you get straight into the middle of them, then the lower hit points, even through the extra damage, are gonna be kinda sad for the Exemanos. Nonetheless, did not happen. Can say it now on the military therefore. 20 pop limit more currently for Deities of Death. Villages are gonna be the same. Somebody going into the next age? Oh yes. Oh yes! Apple is gonna be finding himself going for the Mythic, which is gonna be probably a function... No, I'm thinking that at least partially it's gonna be function of the delay on the gold, because it accumulated a lot of food he didn't have use for. So it's gonna be pushing him forward in that, but I'm also thinking it might have been a plan. Because I mean like fast Mythics aren't definitely uncommon, it's rather on the opposite part of the spectrum that you should be expecting that option and possibility. If you see the Egyptian in the game, and especially if it's gonna be pocket, then yeah, well, it's even a bit easier. What is right now happening to the top? Switching to archers against all the infantry. Apple and fast Mythic. Okay, so based on what you are saying, Darthanox, it seems like maybe it's gonna be the function of the delay binarology at the start. It's really something that can happen, no? That you basically just find yourself with an absolutely stupid amount of resources, and it's not necessarily all that much of a mistake to be trying to switch into the Mythic, because you do have something to bail you out usually. You're gonna be having some pretty big bonus once you advance. Usually some powerful god power that can be helping you out, and so far with how the game is also going, it really feels like that he does have the time for that. There's gonna be some slightly maybe problematic push coming forward in here. By the way, he is gonna be advancing. What is he advancing? Into Thoth. That's a pretty nice god power that he can be doing here. Because even if right now purple would be having an issue, we can just gonna cast meteors into that, it's gonna be fine. Not in the middle of the buildings though. That's gonna be a bit dangerous. Because the damage buildings is still pretty good even against your friendlies. Just the army is, I think, exempted from the damage kind of. Gonna be receiving some lower amount. No, but he does have a way. No, don't. Please, please. Jesus Christ almighty, yet again. People, you gonna kill me with these kind of nonsenses. I'm hoping this is just miscommunication and this wasn't communicated like, hey, let's cast Tempest and Meteors together. It's gonna be a great idea. If so, please don't play this game anymore. Please don't. I'm just like, I'm getting tired of these combinations. Because I mean like the Tempest was absolutely more than enough. He could have been keeping the Meteors for something better. And yet again, it was going to be a risky casting in that situation. Luckily, it was focusing more on the army. And the army was running away. But again, do not recommend casting amongst buildings. It's kind of also funny that people do not realize it, especially with Implosion. Implosion is actually even worse. Implosion is super deadly. I don't think it's having any kind of detriment to actually your buildings if you're gonna be casting it in your base. No, nice Typhoon is gonna be upon us. Is he gonna be there for having some maybe chance on healing, but I don't think it's gonna be really taken anywhere. So, that's that. No, well, actually wasn't that impressive after all. It's kinda like the problem with these kinds of god powers, because if you're gonna be catching something that is having very high hit points, then it's not looking all that impressive. And you are going to be having challenges regarding actually the kills. And of course, the unit, as long as it's gonna be having some hit points, it's still gonna be full in there. Might be creating some opportunities for later, because of course the player might not be fully realizing that there is an actual hit point problem. I've seen so many games of that, so many games like that. Hey player, thank you for the follow. Guessing therefore that the match between Ukas and GDMs has already ended faster than we have ended in here, interestingly, but we have started later. No, but well, let's see how quickly actually this is going to be ending. But yeah, we're getting up with the Dryads. So basically at this point Narcotic needs to be spamming Dryads and he's gonna be golden. Because of course Neurology as a Greek is gonna be having quite an issue dealing with those. Still, again, I'm definitely thinking Dryads need to be nerfed, I'm 100% certain of that. I wouldn't be even actually against putting a favor cost on them, frankly. I think they should be having it. Because they are way too easy to spam. And even if you're gonna be increasing the cost into like 250 wood, you're gonna be making them slightly weaker in like the mid game in here. Mid to late game. But, okay, there's some kind of nice raiding at the back, by the way. I was randomly noticing the yellow dots and I was kind of figuring out what the hell is going on. There's actually Omibozu raiding into TCs. That's fairly smart because they can teleport between the dead water bodies in here. First time I'm seeing this, a very smart usage. And of course, give it right now to ITC. Wow. Okay. No, well, goodbye villagers. But this is something that actually you're gonna be seeing mostly from them. They are definitely one of the creative teams, most creative clans and teams in the competition. They should be certainly winning the prize for that, because there is one in the tournament. And, no, looks like it's gonna be not even able to help here. But the problem is, maybe he's gonna be having to focus upon home, because leaving the Omibozus in there, basically doing what they want, is certainly not a great idea. But they're gonna be pretty tricky to deal with. At the same time, it's an egg game, so a few priests probably should be handling that. Provided he's gonna be noticing it. I think he has already done that. Because there seems to be something currently going on. Yep. Sorry for the slight delay. And all the way to the bottom. I'm kinda like an actually teal is spread out between both of the teams, basically both of the players, both of the sides. And it's kinda like how Pocket should be played. He needs to be reactive and playing where he's needed. Yes, without underworld passage is a bit complicated, but, well, that's why you should be having multiple military buildings across the map so that you are able to respond accordingly. So as the rainbow-colored phoenix is gonna be falling to the sky, or from the skies, and it looks like this is gonna be somewhat of a hard push because you don't really have any kind of great siege weapons. Looks like maybe the Omibozus are gonna be good enough for that. So use them for that. Oh wow, yeah, that's the opposite way. I'm just gonna thinking brain, or the bird brain, going from the left side, they're gonna be attacking, right? And second right about now casting of our Typhoon. Unfortunately, that's gonna be a major miss. No, it looks like the opponents were able to kind of like vacate the premises fairly well, but it's gonna be at least meaning that they have to be actively running away, so it's gonna be like a territory control with power usage at this point, and it's going to be moving forward into now the position of the attack for Mr. Brazil, and it again, Giants being one of the key pieces of that. And Rockres, if I can be looking at the automaton Miko count. No. If you're gonna be automat, what does he have? Can say now 5 at this point. Not entirely too much of a bad favor. Plus, of course, he is Susanoo, so he's gonna be having plenty of the favor from all the Bushidos. He's already right about now having 3rd tier. But it looks like here to the top side, situation has kinda calmed down slightly, or at least this way, and Neurology wasn't able to push through. He needs to be getting siege weapons. Again, just like an army, and if you're not gonna be supporting it with siege weapons, you're just gonna be not getting anywhere too much. However, skill are ready, just in case there was some kind of problem happening in here, it looks like, but not any kind of continuation yet. And, well, Omibozu is gonna be again going for some further TC in here. We have a Gothy, it probably should be a... Wow, he was just angry on that one villager in there. Okay, so this Omibozu is dead. What is even the Diane animation? I haven't seen it yet. Okay, just a giant. So, nothing special, and Kenzie getting ready for further teleport. So it wasn't about Rages this time around. It was about something a bit else. Okay, so where did he teleport? There, into the middle. That's kinda fun. I wonder actually where this idea came from. I wonder if it's gonna be from that glitch slash exploit, no exploit simply, that used to be in the original game where you could be basically transporting units. For example, on a map like this, if you be having a dock, no, well at this point probably doesn't matter. You'll be having a dock somewhere here and transport boat, you could actually eject units onto any kind of other water body, if you did it right. There was some kind of tricks for that. So I wonder if maybe that is some kind of inspiration for it after all. So that was an implementation cast to the top side, by the way, which is gonna be looking at the effects of it pretty soon. So it's gonna be maybe a bit more interesting to be getting some lay of the land here to the bottom battlefield, which seems to be at this point quite multicolored. It's probably not gonna be heading anywhere too much because I mean, like the charioteers, they're fighting mostly against cavalry, which is not gonna be working too excellently. However, now when they're gonna be switching over against the archers, finally some kind of nice micro at this point going on here, for example by Deities of Death. That is maybe gonna be slightly better, but we still don't have any kind of counterplay to the enemy cavalry. Yeah, right, seems like right now the player is not entirely able to manage it all that much. He's at least trying to switch into Herdman. Heavy or bronze. Hey, even yellow is actually joining in here without any kind of upgrades, of course. With heavy Contarios, that's gonna be double bronze and copper, and charioteers are sporting just copper line of upgrades. So probably slightly better currently for ICT or the ITCs. As all the way to the top side after the implosion cast, well, doesn't seem like it was having too much of an effect. Does somebody remember if this TC was actually taken by Nerdology? How is it with the TCs, by the way? Because this is probably narcotics. This is probably Nerdologist in the middle. Nice spread by Apoy. Yeah, I think that actually at this point Apoy, as he's at the 4 TCs if I see it correctly, is probably just taking one from the enemies. We'll be kind of curious to see how Automaton is gonna be reacting to it, and since he already getting some Onmyojis in here, he is well aware. He's gonna be probably trying to right now clean this. Think so. Seems like right now we're always getting ready for that. As all the way to the top, looks like the guy is getting into some good moment in the game, and so far, by the way, the Imperial Age or the Mythical Age is coming forward for Mr. Drazil. I guess another implosion, quite of course, Atlas, and the last one that is currently missing is gonna be Apoy, who has invested into the TCs. Resources obviously right now gonna be stretched thin, so he's having plenty of upgrades in there. Not too many resources to get them. But at least he's starting with the trade, I'm liking that. And frankly, there's just a limited trade so far for Italian clan. Like really limited, I haven't really seen too much of a movement in there. It's the only bosses to the bottom at least, and okay, Saki being done in here. Taking at least a few of the charioteers in here, as the overall population limit is gonna be through that pretty much equalized. I guess. Doesn't seem like it was that much of a game changer, but it's gonna be probably at least keeping the TC away from the enemy hands here. I guess it's gonna be somewhat of a help. And for the economy, 247, the same villages between both of them. You're gonna be looking at yellow, 210 favor. He's having actually so much favor, so if he had some decent trade, because Omnibosus, they are probably costing gold, right? Oh, they're actually costing wood. Aha, that's actually even easier, Jesus Christ. He can be getting so many of them and probably do some really nasty raiding with some kind of back TCs, for example, even here into Gaia. He should do that probably. Legitimately, if that were his focus, that might be much better than whatever else he's gonna be trying to do. At least right now cleaning up DC in the middle, maybe opening some opportunity for a further town center either for his own use or maybe for Nerdology. By the way, upgrades in here are gonna be double bronze and copper, and for heavy Toxotes, since he has advanced through Hephaestus, expecting that's gonna be already filled. Of course, it's all iron. And this is what we're gonna be using there for the favor for. Demolition, apparently most of the army at this point for blue. They didn't entirely care right now, the Dryads. Like, legitimately, the Dryads are at this point holding the battlefield in here. Apparently not for much longer. But nonetheless, they helped as the important piece. No, and maybe they actually held long enough, because it seems like there's a bit of a recuperation for the Deities of Death to the bottom. As they may be gonna be able to finish the TC yet again. Look at the wall in right now by Apoy. Yeah, getting tired of the Omnibosus apparently. But the problem is, it's nice to be walling here to the bottom, but you can teleport even here, right? Are there some rules to the teleporting? What actually can happen, and how you can, basically some limitations to it. I haven't entirely seen it. This is like legitimately the first time I've seen anybody use it properly. So I'm not entirely right now remembering how it was and how it is. And unfortunately, again, I haven't updated yet the Logis tooltips, so I'm not gonna be getting all the full information in here. You need to have vision of any water and you can teleport there. No, yeah, well, I was kind of thinking it's gonna be the case. You just need to be having the vision. So therefore the Wallin is completely useless there. Unless he's kind of afraid of some kind of possible, I don't know, landing, but why would they do that? They don't need to be doing anything along those lines. But currently looks like the Deities of Death are getting ahead. You can see 80 population limit bonus above the opponent. We are having potentially vision for Apple. Haven't used even Golem Bursty, by the way. There could have been quite a nice casting, for example, here in the earlier fights. It's a shame. Or maybe they can be using Golem Bursty right now to help Blue, because he's having a bit of a struggle in here. I don't think you can actually afford to lose this TC, because at this point, with all the iron upgrades in there for Ideology, just missing a few champions in here, because he already does that, for example, hippies in champions, then he's just getting killed here. As soon as this TC is gonna be falling, and maybe even coming into Ideology's hands, then this is gonna be having quite a bit of a quick progress to the top side. So they better be careful. You can see yellow in the middle, alright, having all the TCs in here. That's gonna be there for 4 for him. But what is he there for doing though with that? No, 30 population limit. You can see plenty resources in general. No, he needs to be definitely manning up. And he needs to be getting into the battle, because at this point he's just kind of like a bit sitting on the resources for the team. So come on, Automaton, what's gonna be your plan? No Omibozus to the top side. Hey, where are... I guess therefore to the top. Yeah, let's go to the top. Oh well, sorry for missing that, but thank the devs for being useless. But nonetheless, we are gonna be at this point, therefore, having just a bit of a exactly recognition that this is a very serious issue for Deities of Death in the further continuation of the game. So they try to be at least helping out, but with how well progressed we are with the upgrades and how high hit point, of course, they are in general, the Greek units, then it obviously didn't have too much of a chance of slowing this down too much. But frankly, even though to the bottom we are maybe having some kind of chances in here for, don't want to say really killing Mr. Draziel, it feels to me that as soon as Automaton is gonna be free TC, by the way, in the middle, if there's gonna be some kind of proper army from him and starts pushing, then, yeah, very commonly, I'm thinking that it's gonna be pretty common to think that maybe game number 4 could be even coming for us. However, it's certainly not entirely all that easy yet, and still, the Dryads are gonna be still having some different ideas about what we need to be doing here. Practically what we need to be also doing here in general is focusing the heroes, and the Dryads are gonna be dealing with everything else. That also needs to be a thing, and how to play this for Deities of Death currently. Seems like there's not entirely that much of a micro going on here by Narcotic regarding that idea. So it seems like Kapal's gonna be right now to the bottom, yeah, because there's a serious issue for Mr. Draziel in his base. And if you're gonna be kind of comparing which guy is dying quickly, it seems like it may be Mr. Draziel, but it's kinda tight. It is kinda tight. At the same time, looking at the armies, I'm thinking that the answer to that question is maybe a bit clearer. 100 extra population limit, even more than that, and also right now 20 population limit on the villages. Starting getting better, because it used to be the same between Deities of Death and the Aeon Italia. At least it looks like there's decent amount of trade, but it definitely seems to be a lot livelier for Deities of Death to trade. Would be betting they have more. Feels to me that they're actually a bit better set up for that. Especially right now, it looks like that Apoy is in quite a bit of a healthy space and place. DC will be getting destroyed in just a moment anyway. And I'm just gonna see how many military buildings... No, yeah, I was going to say how many military buildings we have actually present for Apple, because we were talking about it earlier. And I'm thinking that we probably need to be supplying at least the siege workshops. The general charioteers, they are kinda quick, so they can potentially be pulled from the base. It's not ideal, definitely not. But if you maybe are a bit strained for resources still, then sure, I guess. But considering the gold is fine, he probably could be putting the Migros a bit closer. But it looks like that therefore Mr. Draziel is pretty much done. And serious, of course, consequence is going to be lack of trade, because you can see that was going all the way down here. Oh, bad news for the whole team. That's all the way to the top side. Seems like it. Finally, Apple is gonna be coming in to help. No, definitely Narcotic might have been actually screaming for that long term. He was doing pretty damn nicely, holding off Nerdology, because it looked definitely terrible for him for a long time. So I'm kind of impressed by his so far efforts. Oh well, look at that guy. Potentially waiting here for some nonsense. And yeah, well, you can say it now, that one. Waiting for some further omnibuses possibly. But it seems like that's already yesterday's strategy. Not entirely that much interesting for him today. Well, let's switch between the players to see who we can be making fun of because of having some imbalanced economy. I'm hoping nobody. Oh, well, it's gonna be Apoy. He's gonna be the victor of our little lottery in here. Had a bit much wood in there, even the food and gold, but that's something that you can possibly spend. He's right now popped, 237, so that accumulates kind of quickly, but still, could be potentially helping his teammates to send it in. Could be clicking a Titan Gate, for example, right? That's also something that could be coming through. Even though it's a bit tricky to be hitting Titans, of course, for the Norse as always, so... Might be better just to be sending it to his teammates so they can be maybe getting the Titan. Plenty favor. Bushido is gonna be already tier 4. And for the Gaia, but it's gonna be also right now the effect I'm thinking of getting destroyed near the end. That's kinda usually what happens. If you're gonna be having well started economy and you don't lose the villages as quickly as potentially the battle is not going too well for you in the same speed, then you're gonna be starting floating, but nonetheless. Again, maybe could be giving somebody something. Could be getting also the Titan Gate, but it seems like none of that is gonna be happening as the GGs are gonna be coming through for Deities of that. But yeah, this reminded me of the fight that I was mentioning against Ukas for ITCs, where they were having the first 2 games in the match were also such a long struggle and a hard one for Ukas to win, and this was the same for Deities of that, but oh, maybe actually even tighter. Maybe even tighter. Love the Omibozu play, it was really fun. Again, ITCs, if they do not win, the most, kind of like, I don't know what is this price specifically, something like the most innovative clan or whatever. They just need to be them. From all the teams I have cast in the competition, they have had some really funniest strats and really interesting ones. They really do try to prepare. So hopefully they're gonna be getting that, and much more importantly, yeah, therefore, at this point gonna be knowing the Deities of Death are gonna be still continuing the competition, and they're gonna be playing the semifinals of the losers bracket next week. Whereas for Italia, it's gonna be therefore it for the participation. But for a new clan, not a bad result at all. That's, by the way, what kind of position here? Let's put that for the 3 before you're gonna be finishing it all. And esports Mycelium, thank you for the follow. Where do we stand here? Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5th to 6th position in the whole tournament. Therefore, is right now the quarterfinal of the losers bracket.
Two sisters joined the Imperial Princess Bride
selection. Keep the ads on Liquipedia. It's really just like so annoying ads they have started actually putting in there for some stupid, I don't know, Korean novellas or whatever that you can't even pause. No, well, nonetheless, that's not entirely relevant to us though. So let's have a look therefore at some upgrades. Probably gonna be a few things missing. It was somewhat of a crazy game slightly. Can see double bronze and iron for, that is for the blue player, for the Gaia. Obviously full iron for the Hephaestus advancing Poseidon. That kind of seemed like to be a bit of a problem for Automaton to transition away from the Omnibozus. The Omnibozus were superb. But then he kind of like wasn't ready to switch into like normal army, it felt to me. He was like having that plan. And frankly, it wasn't really bad. I wonder if maybe he could have been doubled down on that. Because that reminded me of like Contarius Raiden in the original game. Which if you did it well, that practically could be your whole role in the game. You were just kind of killing TCs. And it was slowly depleting the opponent. Because it was complicating pop limit, it was complicating echo. And depleting resources, because of course they are kind of expensive as well, TCs on their own. So yeah, it could have been the role. I wonder really if he could have been going all in a bit more. I wonder if he could have. But nonetheless, it was great anyway to see that. Case in point, there is actually some unit for yellow. Guess that's Miko at least. So therefore double copper, yep. That's also gonna be one of the pieces of the problem in here. And for red, probably not gonna be having any kind of units, right? I'm expecting... there's an oracle. Double bronze and iron. And maybe, can say now there's also, oh well, that was probably only for the myth units, which is also something that you should be doing, especially on something like watering hole, because quite commonly you're gonna be having battle near a water body. So getting the myth units, especially something like Jormungand Elver, or you can say now the Men of War, that have range, they are pretty useful. I mean, like, classic on the original game, Norse were absolutely commonly playing for Jormungand Elvers and just even creating them, not even playing only on the starting one. Which is like legit good, because they have huge range, huge damage, and they are pretty easy to get in the late game. So it's a still good idea. Okay. So for the other steel, where did he finish? With the bronze. Has a purple taken TC with iron as the frayer. Managed to get there, and I guess that's pretty much it then. So villages next. So that's all the upgrades in here for the Japanese. He was so single-mindedly focused on that fun strat that we actually do not have anything upgraded for the villages economically. That's not gonna be too kind graph to him, but again, he was having a certain plan, no? But nonetheless, at least coinage is there for the trade. So that was the plan. Nice side build right now, of course, growing for Apoy near the end. But that was already... Appreciate, of course, the thought and idea, but it unfortunately wasn't entirely needed to be all that much of a game changer. But still, it's always a great idea to be at least attempting it, because you never know, you don't even have to be actively using it. You can see all the upgrades in here. You just need to be creating the perception of a threat. That's gonna be on its own. Just create a few longhouses beyond the base, few Ulfsaks, whatever. It doesn't have to be a huge army, but the opponent has to be dealing with it. That's kind of like one of the most useful possible fakes you can be doing. And not even fakes, even if you're gonna be committing to it fully, it is actually extremely good in team games. People need to be learning to do back builds a lot more commonly. They are very good with Norse. Seriously, very, very good. Some further upgrades. You can see right now Gaia having everything, plus the Blue Crystal Shard. We do have right now Lama Caravan with coinage. Look at the trade route, by the way. Good job, Deities of Death. They didn't notice the whole game that they actually forgot to place a gate in here. Hey, and they are having to go not quite a stupid path, unfortunately. That's actually kinda bad, though. Maybe it could be looking funny, but that's legit kinda terrible if this happens. That's why you try to be, of course, walling it as an opponent, the trade, to exactly create these kinds of situations. So, take care of it next time. Quick look if the trade is maybe going through the correct path or not. But yeah, well, mistakes happen. Can see right now trading also with coinage here for purple. And his villages therefore having all the upgrades there as well as a Freya. That's what you would be expecting for teal. Only Hendaks. Now considering he was basically full on chariots, would be expecting maybe a bit more therefore on the wood. And that was all the villagers. Yeah, I think that was all of them. Small raiding by orange in here near the end. That's the holding the gold. And really just like a bit of a funny spawn of the map as far as the TCs, for example. I wonder if it maybe confused Nerdology a bit. Because again, this was his front TC, by the way. It's a stupid position all around. You can theoretically fight for the one in front of Narcotic because it is kinda in between. But still, maybe it kinda messed them up a bit, and that's why they also weren't paying attention to it, and Apoy was having easy time to take it, then further preventing, maybe Nerdology having the third. Because again, the top side, the top battlefield looked like that if Nerd was getting a third anytime earlier, might have been actually just like rolling across Narcotic there. Because again, there was a difference for a long time between the armor upgrades. It would have been a challenge. And of course then, though, still the classic problem, not having the siege weapons. You can see even near the end, he's gonna be having tons of army, but no siege weapons. Just like no fortresses. Right now trying to play at least into Hetairoi. He is having the Thracian horses in there, so would have been something. And I guess, well, let's have a look therefore on the float yet again. At the very finish of the game. 9 oracles at the end for Narcotic. Has to be appreciating that even with Gaia, 211 favor, waiting maybe for the next spirits, maybe even for the implosion possibly. He was casting Carnivora by the way recently. Bit of a float at this point. It's gonna be a bit influenced by the fact that we're already kind of winning the last minute plus. Kind of clearly, so they wouldn't be entirely paying attention to it anymore and needing to click as much because you're not gonna be having as many losses. Bit of extra gold in here for Oringe. Yeah, well, Freyr, he was having some resources extra bit longer term. And for the Gaia, that's I'm thinking we have already talked about that. Probably the late game effect at least partially, but maybe he was even flowed before. Gonna be seen in the statistics in the timeline because you can get all that information as well. Okay, that's a lot of idling for yellow in here in the middle. 12, basically for 5 minutes, he's gonna be approximately like 10 villages idle. Slightly less, maybe like 8 villages for 5 minutes idle. For the Japanese, that's a bit high. And certainly not too helpful, especially when he wasn't having an economical upgrade, so it's gonna be even kind of percentage-wise bigger blow for him. A decent amount of red, especially in the later game here for Mr. Draziel, but that might have been already caused by also some kind of military effects directly near his base. Purple a bit here earlier for Apoy, but otherwise not too bad for the others. These are some wild graphs for civilian counts. Look at the drop, for example, here for Neurology. 73 down to 51. I'm trying to remember actually what it was specifically, what kind of point. Shift in sense and vision. Okay, so that's certainly something I didn't see. So you're gonna be having to look at that. That's something I've missed, for sure. I don't remember anything along those lines. Yeah, so we're gonna be looking at that on the recorded game. Hopefully it's gonna be working. What is it? 50 minutes 20. 50 minutes 20. It's actually fairly impressive, you can see right now. No, even more impressive, therefore, that he was pushing blue so much. If that didn't happen then, well, just imagine what could have happened there. No, nasty drop also for right now. Maple. That's gonna be also right now 30 villages down. That's gonna be already the Omnibozus here. Dragon Typhoon. Gonna be at the same spot pretty much. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I was kind of thinking it's gonna be the Omnibozus, no? Yeah, it was somewhere along those lines. That's maybe why we didn't see it, because I was just kind of entranced by that. Nice economy here by red, unfortunately. I mean, like, in the end, it actually did have quite a nice effect, because they also weren't entirely too far away from a possibility of pushing through purple, because they did take down the front TC, just kind of couldn't continue with it. And follow through properly, because, of course, bit by bit, purple was getting the upgrades as a Freya there as well. Yeah, also another part, but you can see it now. Really funny graph when you look at it in general. Oh, look at the army. No, of course, yellow is gonna be there focusing on the TC raiding. Then quite a massive drop currently for Mr. Draziel. That was a critical moment in that they managed to still survive, but it was a challenge. You can say it now. Deal though, quite a good job, even though he lost the economy. He wasn't really losing the army, because he was keeping the chariots alive, so he didn't entirely mind losing the wills. That's really one of the important pieces that works also in AoE too. If you are keeping the archers alive, you don't entirely need the economy, but of course, as soon as you lose the army, then you're gonna be screwed. But as long as you don't, and you are careful, some good cooperation with your teammate, you can be fine. You can kind of play a bit fake, and you can actually fake your way into victory even, quite commonly. There's an Apoy drop as well, but luckily looks like that his teammates were able to cover exactly at that moment. Alright, now and on the resources, that's gonna be of course some immediate effect right now of teal losing his wills in here, fairly actually serious effect. As looks like it for the orange, it isn't entirely as super problematic as you can tell. Yeah, obviously it ends his curve about here, but nonetheless he's having quite nice comeback. For Teal, not as much. He was a bit struggling in there because he lost the TC as well. I guess it's gonna be there for the function of that too. Now, and for the resources at the start, that's gonna be of course the guy highest as it should be. Both of them. Interestingly, 140 difference between the same civilizations, so slightly different approach. Apparently better for narcotic. But then it turned around fairly significantly. Can say now 3,200 in here in favor of Brazil at 11 minutes 20. He was getting the TC number 3 earlier, right? Sorry for clicking around here. A second. Was he even getting a third TC then somewhere? No, he actually couldn't because the front TCs were taken by dots, so he couldn't. He was actually stuck at 2. Maybe therefore he might have been having therefore some trade there a bit earlier. What was it? Civilians. He was just kind of like more efficient at that. No, guy was getting TC here. Slightly better curve, but still took him quite a long time to get onto the same level. No, well, automaton, of course, the low echo in here. I'm kind of wondering if they actually thought that the Omnibuses are gonna be like a game-winning Wunderwaffe. If they kind of thought that's gonna be it, and that's gonna be breaking the game. Because it really felt like that they didn't have too much of a follow-up play there. Unfortunately, because it was a great play. And if they were able to supply even the cavalry archers into the fight, for example, which would have been probably easy to maintain, like besides the Omnibuses raiding, then that might have been like a play. No, whatever the case, you can say now, of course, that's gonna be the runaway from Apoy and also Mr. Brazil, no longer term. That's why, of course, the bottom battlefield was so tight and so close. But really impressive when you're gonna be already having a distance of 12,300 resources between narcotic and nerdology. And you can see what kind of difference the strength of the Greek units and especially the upgrades on the armory are gonna be making, even overcoming such a difference in here. Well then, so something near the end then. The very end, I guess. There we are. Well, that's one hell of a recovery for the Freyr then. When of course Mr. Brazil had to be unfortunately going away. That's 20,000 almost. What is it? 19,500 resources more for purple. Almost double the economy of the bottom here. I can see Apple. Yeah, like in the end, again though, he was able to keep the army anyway. So he did manage to right now fake his way till the end on such non-existent echo. So of course, good job with that. And plenty of resources sent. So entirely too surprising. You can say now Automaton was, it's kind of interesting idea that he was basically going for the Omnibuses and then he was slinging. I wonder he was maybe slinging even before, but if you want to be playing such a way, then again, at least the basic upgrades would be making it a lot more efficient. 1,000 favor, and it wasn't any kind of super long game. It was how long? 31 minutes. 700 for Apoy is kind of nice, but there was a massive fight into the bottom. Narcotic is cool. Mr. Brazil wasn't having as many oracles as you can tell. Not gonna be, of course, I not seen it at the end, but still 4 for him. And the guy was at 9 currently. I already forgot when was it happening here. 15 minutes. Okay, need to be remembering it because you're gonna be looking at that again. And just the chariots, quite of course, and the kills. That's gonna be Mr. Brazil in the end. Well, excellent job by the way. It was a superb game from him overall when you even look at the statistics. And also again how the bottom battlefield was faring. Nicely played. But unfortunately, they didn't prove to be necessarily enough. Still pretty good kills for Automaton. Like legit, largest army 26. And still gonna be having 187 units killed. 724, sure, fast the heroic. 1414 into the mythical age is kind of a bit later, but he was of course not entirely going for the fast mythic into them. He was going first for the Raijus and raiding with those. And then only switched over. I wonder if it was the plan from the start, the Omnibuses. Or if it was just like a spur of the moment. we realized it's a possibility and not a bad one. 1250 for Apple, or the Apple, the fast Mythic in there. And yeah, I wanted to be actually seeing even the all resources to float for the red play. And he was actually floating even here at 23 minutes, 8 minutes ago. So he was having a long-term problem with having resources, with too many resources. So therefore he should have been having a lot more army. Like killing some villagers and getting more pop limit there. Because again, that was his struggle, right? He was having the TCs. He was still stuck at 2. So he just needed to be having some further opportunity there. And that's also why he was there for floating. Because just kind of couldn't spend it upon what the economy is programmed for, kind of. For a wait, 21. Not entirely too late upgrades here. Fairly okay. Automaton, of course, faster heroic, but otherwise nobody lagging behind too much. Nice to be seeing it. And 52 Dryads, 51, and 8 Omnibuses. Could have been probably going really a bit more all in. It was a fun strat, and I think it could be really working on a map like this. Same as on Marsh, of course, but Watering Hole is a bit better, as it's having more pawns across the map and more accessible to the TCs. On Marsh, you don't have to be entirely as close, but it's kind of similar in a way. But funny and fun. Funny and fun indeed. Could be also interesting on something like a Midgard, by the way. Because you can practically just kind of teleport all the way to the other side of the map instantaneously. So for some easy mythical age raiding and disrupting their fishing, maybe it could be also pretty useful. But GG, and let's therefore have a look at the recorded game. At the 15-minute mark. That's gonna be taking a bit before we actually get there on my computer. So I guess you can already therefore start thinking properly and ending there for the stream. That's gonna be of course it. You're not gonna be streaming anything else. You're just gonna live for enjoying some Mythic Clan League here. As there was a kind of multi-match currently going on. No, and well, the next stream we're gonna be doing something here on the channel on Monday. Probably Age of Empires 2. Very likely that it's going to be. And Wednesday is going to be Age of Mythology. Probably will be wanting to stream the other match that was played today and streamed by player at Twitch TV. Player AOT and also Arrow93. I was doing it in Spanish. Player was English. And Arrow93 underscore was casting it in Spanish. So you're going to be probably doing it on our community session on Wednesday as recorded games. And then some community games probably. Unless I'll be just wanting to be doing also the Friday match of the upper bracket semifinals that was also up. It was streamed by Boyd, if I saw correctly, between Clan Bomb de Briga versus Skeen. That's a question there as well. Not gonna be really looking at things here, just gonna waiting for the 15 minutes what's going to happen in there and when and where. Can be just gonna look in here because there's gonna be the Hippicon raiding that slow down Apple and maybe just gonna motivated him to go for that fast Mythic after all. So I'm gonna be letting you look at that as I'm gonna be watching some and looking at some other things. Okay, so I want to be seeing which players of our today's games are actually having some streams. Might not be actually even anybody here, besides Automaton. Thinking he might be the only one. Because otherwise it's gonna be only like straight Deities of Death, right? They're gonna be having listed in there. minutes. For example, Apoy was casting on Deities of Death last Sunday. Last Sunday, or the 2 weeks before, or simply he was streaming on the channel before. Fairly recently, so that's gonna be right now some short recommendations here. Not entirely too many active streamers in these two teams, unfortunately. Or as well, as far as their own channels, therefore that is. But there we go, that's gonna be this idea, and 10 minutes, let's maybe already wait here, so that we don't potentially miss some preparation for it. And of course, thank you therefore to all the players for the games today that you're getting to enjoy. So for Deities of Death, it was Apple, Narcotic and Apoy. And for Italian clans, so ITCs, for Eom Italia, Mr. Drazil, Automaton, Nerdology and also Sepia Pigra. And also Artorias on the Bahamas. They of course switching players according to what they needed to be specifically doing. Well, Vault. Well prepared by Apoy. Definitely just at this point can be immediately seen when somebody's trying to get through. Yeah, well, in the team balls, that was a good point. I have also seen Raised. That it's nice to be kind of like saving the time of the villages and whatever. But there could be a bit of a problem that if you are getting attacked and you are having your allies' walls in front of you, you don't get the notification that you are under attack. So that could be a bit of a problem. At the same time, we're usually gonna be having like plenty signals anyway. So it might be getting drowned down and out. And you're just gonna be seeing the blinking on the minimap anyway. So it might not be entirely as much of a problem. I can say it now, meteors, at least some kind of hits in here, but still double casting absolutely excessive, unfortunately. Okay, so he's gonna be probably landing here, right? And he's gonna be killing these villages, if I had to guess. Okay, that's the Typhoon. Okay, sure, so he's dead. And about like now, there should be something taking place. Yeah, that's the Omibozu. That's the vision, and we're gonna be getting the shifting sense. Ah, okay. So, this was actually what we were in Italy right now, or I wasn't looking at. As we were, or I, again, was really just enjoying the Omibozus in there, so that's gonna be another back TC, and having quite an actually effect on the villages as well. Can say it now he's currently at 65 orange, but he's gonna be losing the bills. Those are exposed. Base is not gonna be doing too hot either, but mostly it's gonna be there for the base, I guess. Blue is gonna be right now attacking again. Well, at the same time, sorry. But probably not entirely getting all those wills, right? I'm just gonna try to see if there's gonna be some really huge spot. It's gonna be kind of like half of them, which so far isn't happening. Otherwise, the teal villagers, they are getting killed at the same moment. You can say now he's gonna be at 40. But he was fast Mythic, so he never was in like a super high amount in the first place. Okay, villagers use also again the siege towers. It's gonna be a TC save. The camels, well, I guess just the pursuit of all the villages resulted into some pretty good kills. I think it should be pretty much it, right? No, I mean, like, it's very surprising he didn't go back up. Maybe just wasn't any kind of communication. Narcotic didn't tell him that there are actually gold miners topside, so he was just going all the way south here, Apple. Because if he did go upwards, he would be having such an easy actually kill time in there. Maybe it's still gonna happen in here. Wait a second. Oh, wait a second. Actually, it's still going to happen in here, right? No, well. Could have been probably like, sacrificing the camels and the horses so that they can be at least getting some of the extra bills in here. Because you can see this is right now not entirely too much of a healthy sacrifice anyway. But maybe he was doing it on purpose so that the Dryads could be attacking from the other side as well in here and have some kind of result. No, well, seems like it's gonna be it for the villages, therefore for the kills. Okay. I guess he was probably trying to cast it like in front of them so that they're gonna be thrown into his army in here. Yeah, the Kusanagi is quite a bit tricky to be casting, especially if you are used to Shockwave being instantaneous. It really isn't the easiest to work with, unfortunately. But yeah, it seems like it's gonna be there for the kills of the villages that we have seen here, therefore. Then drop for orange. No, teal was obviously just gonna, because of the Omnibosus in there. And that was what we have seen. The kill right next to the TC. They destroyed the TC and they lost like, I don't know, 10 villages instantaneously there. 10, 15. It's actually kinda a lot. So that was one of the drops that we have actually witnessed. No, and for the rest of the game, I think we have seen most of it. So it was just the part that I wasn't entirely certain about. And yes, I really didn't notice it because there were multiple things going on at once. Okay, so GG. It's gonna be all recorded, but well, anybody else can be potentially looking at as well at the recorded games, casting it, and all kinds of other things with it. So thank you therefore to all the players, as you mentioned, and also therefore thank you to the tournament hosts of the Mythic Clan League. So therefore Deities of Death, specifically J4, Grace and Gottschalk, and the sponsors of the tournament, Clan itself, then Papa Jeffito, BQVH, and also somebody anonymous, Lucrex aka Lucas Isnila, who is also maintaining the Liquipedia for the tournament, and also some others, of course, in Age of Mythology. Then Wilfor, Illusionist, Player, Regulate, Isomarto, Ironhide, H2O Judd, and Benny WR, also all pitched into the prize pool.